First things first, Aaron Rodgers has been a man on a mission the last 4 games. 14 total touchdowns, no picks. Is the MVP award his to lose down the stretch? Well, LeBron's without his co-star Anthony Davis for a little while. Do we still believe in the Lakers' title hopes now? And Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs back on top of the AFC. Are they the best bet to win the Super Bowl? Good Tuesday morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe alongside Nick Wright, Chris Broussard, Kevin Wilds. Nick, just found out you're a betting man. It's like I don't even know you, my friend. I feel like the Chiefs bet could be a good investment for you. I feel like that's a good place to put your money, especially if they're
Jenna, that investment was made the moment last year's Super Bowl ended. Nothing salves the wound of multi-$1,000 losses from a Super Bowl by betting even more thousands on the next year's Super Bowl. And we've let it ride all year, Jenna, and it's about to pay off. It's about to come in big, baby.
All right. Yes. I want to get in on it. This is where I'm going to start my betting. All right, we're going to start 800 miles east of Kansas City, where Nick put all his money. We're in Cleveland, where the Browns hosted the Raiders last night. Browns missing 10 starters, including quarterback Baker Mayfield. Also missing quarterback Case Keenum. So quarterback Nick Mullins gets the call. The Browns could only muster up 14 points, losing on a walk-off field goal for Vegas. The loss drops Cleveland now to 7-7, last place in the AFC North. Listen, expectations were high. Nick and Broussard both picking this team to make the AFC Championship. So, yeah, that bar is a little sky high coming into the season. All right, so here's the stretch for the Browns. They're at the Packers, at the Steelers, and then they host the Bengals. It is a daunting couple of weeks for them. Chris Broussard, I'll start with you. What do you make of the lost season for the Cleveland Browns?
It's horrible, Jenna. And you said it. I mean, look at the schedule going forward. The Pollyannish among us will think, hey, give them an A for effort last night with a third-string quarterback. They really tried hard and came close. People may blame COVID. They may blame Baker Mayfield's injuries. Or to your point, they may say, hey, we're still not out of it. But when you look at that schedule, Green Bay, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, I think they're going 1-2. I hate to say it. So they're probably out of the playoffs. And this is a nightmare. There's just no other way to say it. There's no excuse. Everybody's battling COVID. Everybody's battling injuries. This is bad. And some people might want to point to those as excuses, but I would rather point back at week 5 when your 5th-ranked defense, top 5 defense in the NFL, gave up 26 fourth-quarter points to the LA Chargers and lost a 14-point lead in the second half. I would rather point to week 8 when you let Pittsburgh and its geriatric quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger, come into your building and beat you. I would like to point out in the last 2.5 years, you couldn't find out a way to use Odell Beckham Jr. in 2.5 seasons.
That's right.
And the LA Rams look like they figured it out in 2.5 hours. Real talk. Like, those are the things I'm looking at, Nick. And finally, there is a soap opera quality about these Cleveland Browns. It's almost like Dallas. It's not quite to the point of the Dallas Cowboys, but it's similar, where there's always seems to be drama. And there's something, like, I don't know if it's because of the high expectations, if it's because they were on Hard Knocks a few years ago, if it's because they had these outsized personalities like OBJ and Baker Mayfield. But whatever it is, the front office, I think, is solid, and I like Kevin Stefanski. But there is a drama about this team that I think works against 100%. Them, just like the Cowboys. It's like you're waiting for something negative to happen because it's a soap opera. Right. It's a performance, and they got to get rid of that. And I'm going to say this, Nick. I think Baker Mayfield may need to consider dropping the progressive commercials. I really mean, now, I don't think that impacts his play.
That's the line there.
It's the best thing he's doing right now. It's the only good thing he's doing.
I get it, Jenna, but does he want to be an actor or does he want to be a quarterback? Because I get it. I don't think it affects his play.
I didn't want to argue with you this morning.
But here's the thing.
Hold on.
Look, it makes him something he's not. It makes him a star and a celebrity, and it puts this target on his back. He's already got it because he's number one pick. But now there's a target, we expect more than he can deliver because he's got the great commercials. He needs to consider and show that he's about football. The main thing, Nick, keep the main thing the main thing.
This is 1 day a week, 1 day a year. It's one shoot day a year. Listen, I was totally with you until the progressive
It's not the time.
Progressive stuff has nothing. It's got nothing to do with any of it. I even liked your soap opera like Dallas. I thought you meant the actual show Dallas, like Who Shot Odell. I'm not sure, but he's thriving in Los Angeles. But you meant the Dallas Cowboys, not the show Dallas. So here's the thing, Wilds, for the Browns. Broussard, God, dog it, man. Broussard is so great. And then every once in a while, the old man on his shoulder pipes in and he's like, also say he should stick to football. Broussard's like, I've got all this great analysis. And the old man shakes his cane at Broussard. He's like, nah, these whippersnappers and their commercials. And he's like, okay, I'll get it in there, sir. All right, but now, on the football side of things, Wilds, I think last night was a good example because, yes, the Browns did have excuses last night. Not even excuses, explanations. But Wilds, you know what team maybe has the most excuses or explanations? Team that beat them last night. The Raiders currently have the same record, far better wins, just beat them head to head, and they've gone through more legitimate awfulness via the Henry Ruggs situation, self-inflicted nonsense via the Damon Arnett mess, and just upheaval via the Gruden gross emails than any team in the league. And they got to play the Chiefs twice a year, and they're sitting there at 7-7. Like, hey, we're still alive, guys. You guys, on the other hand, are in a rougher spot at 7-7. Here's my question, Wilds. Could the year have gone worse? So we have an expanded playoff field where 10-7 should get you in. They're not going to be able to get there. That's a disaster. They have one signature win all year when they annihilated the Bengals a month and a half ago. We've played 14 games. That's a disaster. We know nothing more about Baker Mayfield right now than we knew going into the season.
Correct.
Well, that's a disaster when it comes to figuring out whether or not you want to pay him. And, oh yeah, by the way, it's not only Wilds that you got nothing out of Odell, you got nothing for Odell. One of your best, they're like the guy who wants to excavate the mine or the landfill to find his old Bitcoin. You had something super valuable and you got nothing for it. You threw it away. And so, so it's worse than we couldn't make it work with Odell, so we traded him. No, you just got rid of him. So I would argue that the Browns and the Seahawks are the two teams fighting atop of the disappointing season mountain. Like, which season went to hell more and faster? And the Browns are in a really rough spot, and I think it's a totally lost season.
Yeah, so about the disappointing season, it's an old Newt Rockne saying, I think. It actually might be Tom Landry, who said, you never want your season to peak at the Halloween decorations from Myles Garrett and putting graveyards in the front yard. It's an old Newt Rockne saying, you never want your season to peak at the Halloween decorations. But about Baker Broussard, and I know that this is going to get right at your Cleveland soul, that when you were growing up and all the other kids were drinking ice water after the game, you had to drink a glass full of just broken shards of glass, just to toughen you up. But would you shut down Baker for the rest of the year since the playoffs are pretty much done? I read that they have a 17% chance of making the playoffs. I think it's probably less than that when you look at the actual schedule. But I know this strikes at your Cleveland toughness, gut it out. But Baker's probably going to need surgery. He's wearing all sorts of apparatuses last time we saw him. He's performed pretty badly. I think the thing that we learned about Baker is that he's not great when he's hurt, although he tries to tough it out. So with 3 games left, Broussard, would you shut Baker down so maybe he can shoot more commercials while the season is actually going, but he's not playing? Would that suit you? Would that be a happy medium?
Look, I get it why you guys don't listen to me. all the old man on the shoulder jokes and Broussard, when men were men back decades ago. I get it if you don't listen to me.
Better you than
but
me, Broussard.
Every ex-football player we've had on the show, Michael Vick, LeVar Arrington, Coach Eric Mangini, they all say, what do you mean shut him down? What do you mean he's hurt? He's not 100%, but everybody's playing banged up. So no, Wilds, I would not shut him down. Just like I wouldn't have shut him down 5 weeks ago when you guys, Baker's hurt, Baker's in pain. No, I wouldn't shut him down now. I want to see what he's made of. And here's the other thing.
Right.
If I'm the Cleveland Browns, but here's the thing, Wilds. You think Kevin Stefanski can march into the locker room today? Hey, it's over. We're done. Baker, you're not playing. Anybody that's injured, no. You got to go in there and say, look, we are one of the best teams in the NFL. All right. I still believe that. I still believe in you guys. We can beat Green Bay, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati and get into the playoffs. Let's go do it. And Baker leads them. That's what he's got to say. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's what he's got to say. So no way you shut it down. Only thing you need to be shutting down are the progressive commercials. It's just true.
Well, I don't know about that.
Keep the main thing the main.
Nick, I think Nick's point is true. You don't know what you're going to get from Baker now because it's been a season where you're left with more questions than answered yet again. All
That's
right,
Jenna.
We take a turn to the NBA, talk some Lakers. They're without AD for a while now. Can LeBron still rally them to a title? We discuss next. It is First Things First. Tonight it is a special primetime edition of the NFL on Fox. Matthew Stafford and the Rams look to continue their climb to the top of the division against Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, who, by the way, still in it, right, Broussard? They got a shot. Or Washington taking on the Eagles. Check local listings for the game in your area. Tonight, starting at 6:30 Eastern, only on Fox and the Fox Sports app. Hey, what's the bottom line? Bottom line, we got football on Tuesday. Fantastic. Speaking of Tuesday, we're drawing a blank on a Tuesday morning. LeBron James and the Lakers back in action tonight, hosting the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns. Yeah, Suns, first place, out west. Lakers, not. LA coming in losers of their last two. They'll be without Anthony Davis now for at least the next 4 weeks after he sprained his MCL Friday in Minnesota. Tough blow for a team only one game over 500. So, Chris Broussard, your confidence level in the Lakers as contenders is blank.
It's hanging by a thread, Jenna. It's hanging by a thread of one of LeBron James' signature sneakers. That's right. Because it's only faith in that man and his historic greatness. That's it. It's the faith in his greatness and what he's done in this game that even makes me remotely give them a chance to be a contender. That's it. It's not about Anthony Davis, although they'll need him, or Westbrook, or any of these guys. It's just, gosh, can you write off a LeBron team? Probably not. So that's why I'm hanging on by a thread. But here's the thing with LeBron, and Nick, I'll be interested to get your opinion on this. I think we've kind of hit where LeBron may be like he was now in his second and third season in the league, when he clearly is one of the best players in the league, and his numbers are great. Like, his numbers are essentially what they've always been. But he's not able to control the game and impact winning anymore like he used to. I'm not saying he doesn't impact it at all, but like when his prime, he could have carried this bunch, even without Anthony Davis, to contender status. But now he can still put up the numbers, but he doesn't impact winning like he used to and dominate the game. So I think they're in trouble. They're going to have a lower 4 seed, right? 5 to 8 is where they'll end up being seeded because AD's going to miss so much time. And so they're going to probably get a tough first round game matchup. So hanging on by a thread. That's it.
Yeah, the sweet spot, what the Lakers would love is to be the 6th seed, get Utah in round 1, and then have that path. But, because I agree with you, top 4 is out of the question in all likelihood. To answer Broussard's question, before I give my answer, I agree with you wholeheartedly. LeBron's numbers are still excellent, but if you watch the games day in, day out, it doesn't feel like he can flip the switch of we're not losing the way he had for, 15 years from basically year 3 up until the end of the bubble, right? The big question for the Lakers is, does he still have that ability to do that for 6 weeks? Can he get there for the playoffs? I am also going to hold out some optimism of that, and that's why my confidence level of the Lakers title contender is a buyer. Meaning, if the Lakers were a stock right now, I think they're a touch undervalued. They're 10-1 to win the title right now. If you froze time and played this season out 10 different times, the Lakers win the title at least once, if not twice in that. The reason the Lakers are undervalued is because the whole league right now is undervalued because the Nets are such massive favorites against the field. The traveling circus, otherwise known as the 2021-2022 Brooklyn Nets, who have won precisely one playoff series since they were the hard bunch before they got KD and Kyrie. That team is somehow a prohibitive favorite. Because they're such favorites, everyone else seems to be undervalued. The most undervalued team is Milwaukee, who should be the overall favorites, but the Lakers are slightly undervalued as well. On LeBron, while I agree with Broussard, you can't make the case right now this moment as the best player in the league. It is odd, though, that despite all the Lakers' issues, despite everything we've talked about, he's been the third best forward in the league this year. It's been Giannis, Durant, and then LeBron. It's hard to make a case for anybody else. In year 19, he is still giving you 26, 7, and 7 on 50% shooting. But with no AD for a month, that's not going to be enough unless Russ can all of a sudden start playing, like he did 4 years ago. So yeah, I think the Lakers are in a bad way, at least for the time being. But I am also I'm not going to write them off because in a playoff series, I think still will have LeBron.
All right, I'm not writing them off, but my answer is my confidence level is as low as it's ever been. And I want to dig into the LeBron aspect of it.
Oh.
Because LeBron on this Lakers team is a little bit like when a Hollywood studio realizes they have a dud of a movie, and they're just like, well, we do have Matt Damon in it. And then you see the trailer, it's like Matt Damon is Brian Callahan, and Brian Callahan is gonna get it done. And you're like, should we see that movie, Brian Callahan? Like, what does Brian Callahan exactly do? You're like, I don't know, but it's Brian Callahan. Because here's the question, Broussard. What do the Lakers do well? What is the Lakers' identity? Here's some random stats. They're not random wilds. I actually researched them. They're 11th in win percentage, they're 24th in offense, they're 10th in defense, they're 13th in assists, they're 21st in rebounds, and they've got the 4th worst turnovers. So to me, they're like Brian Callahan. Yeah, they got one star, but what are they actually about? I can't figure it out. Can you?
I would say their identity, they do play fast, but that's not their identity. Their identity is that they're old.
Pace.
They're old. This is the last. This is the last hurrah. I mean, seriously. Like what Nick and I said about LeBron, that's just age. I mean, he's still great individually, but he can't control the game like he used to. Melo can give it to you once every 4 nights. They can't stay in front of young teams. Now, their defense has improved. You said 10th or 11th. That's a jump because they've been getting better over the last few weeks since LeBron's been back. But they have trouble with young teams. And guys are putting up numbers. Not just LeBron, Nick. Look at Westbrook's numbers and you would just say, wow, he's getting it done. He's almost averaging a triple-double with LeBron and AD. But they're not leading to victories.
I'm going to add one other thing, though, that I think it can be their identity. It's certainly how they've built this team, and it's one of the reasons that I'd still be a buyer for them. And it's one of the reasons that I said Golden State should not be the Western Conference favorites. It should be Phoenix. Their identity is they are big Wilds. And I do think there is an element of, if everyone's healthy, the size of what they present to you could give a team such as Golden State real trouble in a playoff series. I do believe that. Now, what Phoenix has is they have some youth and some size, and they have a guy who can control, the final minutes of a game like Chris Paul. That's why Milwaukee obviously has the size plus the youth and the championship pedigree. So it's not enough to say they should be the favorites or anything like that. But I do think they want to be a big, tough team, which is why, Jenna, at the beginning of the year, when their defense was awful, it was indefensible. The defense now has picked up, but the offense has fallen off as a lot of people thought it would. But that's the other thing. I think their size is what they want their identity to be, Jenna.
Old and tall. Okay, I guess
Wilds,
so.
if you said Tommy Callahan, then you had yourselves a movie.
Who's that?
All right, let's talk some football.
Who's Tommy Callahan?
Tommy Callahan.
Wait, who's
Tommy
that?
Boy? It was Tommy Callahan, one of the greatest movies of all time. Brian Callahan, I don't know who's watching that movie.
Jenna.
No? Yeah, you didn't think that was my genre.
Great pull.
I talked my way right out of that one. Hey, we're talking some football. Nick's got some MVP rankings. You might be surprised by both that and my taste in movies. Back after this. First things first. New segment alert.
Oh,
We're
look
calling
at
this
this
one Nick's MVP rankings. Let me explain how it works. I'm kidding. It's Nick's MVP rankings. We are in the home stretch of the season now. Tom Brady was the leader in the clubhouse coming into the week, but things change after he gets shut out by the Saints. All right, Nick, sort out this crowded field of MVP contenders for us. Take us through your rankings.
Well, quickly, Jen, I do want to say, because this does need some explanation. I understand the MVP is going to be a quarterback because it's become a quarterback-only award. However, I hate when the media acts like that's a fait accompli, like senators complaining about the filibuster. Do something about it. If you really don't like it, guys, you vote on this thing. If you don't like that it's only quarterbacks, vote for a non-quarterback. So we will tilt towards quarterbacks because of the value in the MVP part of it, but this is not only quarterback. So coming in at number 5 is that quarterback, Tom Brady. Why is Tom Brady number 5? Well, the case for Brady being MVP is he has the most yards and the most touchdowns. That's the entirety of the case. Brady's team has struggled the last half of the season, 3-4 after the outstanding start, 4-3 after the outstanding start. Brady in his biggest games of the year, the Rams, the Patriots, and the Saints, has been at his worst, and this most recent game was the worst game any MVP candidate has had all season by a mile. Not only losing a game to the Saints, but getting shut out, and when you only needed one drive for the first 50 minutes and you'd have the lead, not being able to produce it, that knocks you down quite a bit, but he leads in yards and touchdowns, so he's still in the top 5. Number 4, Jonathan Taylor. Oh my goodness, Jonathan Taylor, if we could erase the first 3 games of the year, the Colts maybe would be the Super Bowl favorites, and Jonathan Taylor may be the MVP favorite. Jonathan Taylor, first 3 games of the year, was averaging 55 yards per game, and the Colts were 0-3. Since then, they're 8-3. He has over 1,300 yards rushing, over 1,600 yards from scrimmage, and 19 touchdowns. How's this for a stat? Colts, when he has less than 100 yards, 0-6. When he has more than 100 yards, 8-0. If there is value for a running back, Jonathan Taylor is producing it on a level of Derrick Henry last year. Henry, of course, though, didn't win the MVP either. Number 3, surging late like a great horse down the back stretch of the Kentucky Derby, Patrick Mahomes. All right, so we already know 3-4 to 10-4, the number 1 seed currently in the AFC. His best 2 games of the year have come in the last 2 games, most notably on national television with the division on the line. Also, it is worth noting, as a little addition to his MVP, case, the first 6 weeks of the year, when the Chiefs were 3-3, they had a historically bad defense. The only reason they weren't 1-5 or 0-6 was the work of that man right there. His stats, while not up to his career standard, still top 5 in touchdowns, top 5 in yards, and the best team in the AFC. He's at number 3. Number 2, the other side of the football, TJ Watt. Leads the NFL in sacks, leads the NFL in forced fumbles, leads the NFL in fumble recoveries, second in the NFL in tackles for a loss. The Steelers are 7-4-1 when he plays, and of their 7 wins this year, 6 of them are directly attributed to him. You can make a strong argument. Without TJ Watt, the Steelers would have one win this year. If he has a monster game this weekend as a 10-point underdog against Mahomes and the Chiefs, and the Steelers win, he's going to have a legitimate case to overtake the man who right now is number one, and he's number one with a bullet, Aaron Rodgers. 30 touchdowns, 4 picks, but better than that, because he was 0 touchdowns, 2 picks in week 1. Since then, he's 30 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. They have lost 1 game he has played since then. And in that game, he had a 140 passer rating and 4 touchdowns against the Vikings. Also, you saw his value in the game he missed. The offense couldn't get going. Now, the offense was playing a great defense, but still couldn't get going at all. And so Rodgers, team's the 1 seed. They're red hot at post week 1, essentially. He should be the MVP as of now. Broussard, there is the MVP top 5. I don't know what one could argue with, but go ahead.
Oh, I'm gonna give you some things to argue about. All right, first let me give you props. TJ Watt is having a tremendous year. And you know this, Nick. Only 2 defensive players have ever won the MVP award, and nobody's done it since Lawrence Taylor in 1986. Here's the thing working against Watt. We know it's going to be a quarterback anyway, but they're 7-6-1, and you 7-4-1 with him. But still, when Lawrence Taylor won it, the Giants were 14-2. And when Alan Page won it before him for Minnesota in 1971, they were 11-3. So you've got your team has to have this incredible season as well for a defender. I actually think, Nick, the NFL should consider creating some type of, maybe like a Cy Young award for the quarterback. And then we have an MVP for any player. But there's like the Cy Young, the Peyton Manning award, whatever you want to call it.
I agree 100%.
But now, all right, let me get to this. I don't even know what to call this thing. The Tom Brady, was this to spite me? Because I picked, you're jealous. Oh, Broussard's going to be right on Brady, the preseason MVP. He picked the Chiefs with me. He's going to be right on the Super Bowl pick. He's a basketball guy. We can't have that. Is that what this is about? Because I can live with Rodgers at number 1 because it's close. All right. Okay. But how in the world do you have Patrick Mahomes ahead of Tom Brady? There is no argument in existence, Nick, for Patrick Mahomes to be ahead of Tom Brady. Right now, the last week, that's it. Right now, because look at these stats. Tom Brady has him beat in everything. Completion percentage, passer yards, number 1 in the league. Touchdowns, number 1 in the league. And Mahomes has more interceptions. Passer rating better. The old man's even run for as many TDs as Mahomes. And fumbles, Mahomes has twice as many. Nick, I mean, this is comical. And I like Mahomes. But there's no way he can be ahead of Tom Brady. And here's the other thing. In addition to the stats, Brady has the narrative. Brady's narrative, 44 years old, defined father time, leading the league in several categories, coming off a Super Bowl victory. That's his narrative. What's Mahomes' narrative? Worst season of his professional career since he's been a starter. The league kind of figured him out. Not as dynamic as he used to be. Like, what's the narrative?
Do you agree with any of those narratives?
They're both 10 They're both 10-4.
Yeah, but okay, that's fine. But one's the 1 seed, and the other is right now 6% chance to get the 1 seed.
Tougher conference.
And the narrative, again, we are not going to pretend. There are a couple things that we can't pretend. One is we can't pretend that when it comes to postseason awards that the final 4 or 5 games of the year are weighed as the same as the first 4 or 5 or the middle 4 or 5. We know they have increased importance. And we know that Brady is coming off his single worst performance of the season. Shutout for the first time in 15 years. That's another, by the way, stat. I'm surprised you didn't include it. It's another stat Brady has on Mahomes. career times being shut out. Well, Mahomes never, ever in his entire football life, dating back to junior high school, Brady, meanwhile, has been shut out once in the last, 72 hours. So that seems noteworthy. But the other thing is, how well are you playing at the end? Yes, Brady has the numbers edge. Will he finish the year with the numbers edge? Maybe. He'll probably beat him in yards. Will he beat him in touchdowns? We'll see. But MVP awards have not purely been about the numbers. If they were, Wilt would have more MVPs than Russell, but Russell has more than Wilt. If it was just about the numbers, then we would see very different stories being told. Numbers are part of it, but again, Brady's entire case is the stats. How well they're playing right now. They're the 3 seed right now. And good for them. They're the same right now. The same seed as the Titans. Very different schedules, though. And as far as the numbers, what does help Brady is the 9 touchdowns he threw against the Falcons. That does, 9 touchdowns and nearly 800 yards against the Falcons. I'm happy for Brady in that regard. But we wouldn't dare discount those good performances like we do Mahomes against the Raiders. We would never do that. But again, I think right now Mahomes has surged ahead of Brady, but I think they're both Wilds far and away behind Rodgers. I think Rodgers is clearly right now ahead of both of them.
Okay. Here's the thing. And I know this is a regular season award, but Brady is number 1 over Mahomes for the other reason, because they played head-to-head, and Tom Brady mollywopped, as you like to say, Patrick Mahomes. So for the record, and I know that it's not supposed to count. It is. It's not a part of it like how if you're on like a jury and the prosecutor's like, is it true that you sleep with a skeleton? And the guy's like, what? And I got disregard. You'll be disregard. Do not believe that he sleeps with a skeleton. The jury's like, I know we're supposed to disregard that, but do you think he sleeps with a skeleton? Doesn't matter. Even though you're not supposed to think about it, it is still in the overall narrative. So that being said, Tom Brady's number 1. I think Mahomes is last place if we're lucky. I will move up Jonathan Taylor because I think Jonathan Taylor is certainly having a better year than Patrick Mahomes for the following reason. One is consistent production, and you mentioned a little bit of it. Jonathan Taylor has scored a touchdown in every game dating back to September 26th. So think about September 26th. That's when you're like, what do you need for your school supplies? Another thing of crayons? That's the last time Jonathan Taylor did not score a touchdown. Number 2, he's done them in big ways. The wow factor. And everybody saw it Saturday against the Patriots. Is this going to be close? Nope, not anymore. Game over, Jonathan Taylor. This was actually a knock on him coming out of Wisconsin. That's why he fell to the second round. The draft experts like, I don't know. He set a bunch of records in college, but is he even fast? Yes, he's very fast. He has 3 of the top 5 fastest speeds in the league. So I think a wow factor plays into a little bit of that narrative. And finally, number 3, historical precedent. We're going to have to shout out the NFL Network Fox broadcast for this graphic that Dusty said, hey, why don't we use this graphic? Our great teammates over at Fox Broadcast. When we look at, and I know it's difficult that it became a quarterback award, but it wasn't always that way. He is almost outpacing through the first 14 games all of those MVPs. Whether it's, Barry Sanders, we have Danian on there, we have Marshall Faulk on there. So I think that the historical precedence, the wow factor, and just the consistency of Jonathan Taylor moves him above Mahomes. I would put him top 3 in the MVP race.
All right, so here's the problem. Just a couple problems, and I'm not here to attack Jonathan Taylor, but Wilds made a very interesting point when talking about Jonathan Taylor winning MVP. He said, think back to what you were doing September 26th, how long ago that feels. So think back to what you were doing February 7th. Does that feel like 30 years ago? Because that was when the Super Bowl between the Bucs and Chiefs were played. Yet somehow that's supposed to factor in here. And again, if we're factoring in last year, Jonathan Taylor, really embarrassing playoff performance last year. Yikes. They lost to the Bills. Who loses to the Bills in the play? No. Sorry. Listen, we're being fair here. We're just being fair. I just think Josh Allen should maybe be ahead of Jonathan Taylor because of that playoff game. I just think it's something that needs to be discussed. If we're talking about last year's results, Your Honor, as I oddly talk about a skeleton in a bed, maybe that would have been better post-show to work out your issues with, my friend, but that's neither here nor there. On Jonathan Taylor, here's what I actually think does work against him, my friend. An honest question. Do you think Jonathan Taylor this year has been better or more dominant, if we're going to talk about previous seasons, than Derrick Henry last year? Because I think that's hard to convince people, and Derrick Henry didn't get a vote. And his team, same division, they won the division.
Don't you think it's
don't you think that hurts him, Wilds?
No, I think that's very fair, but I almost feel that works in his advantage.
That's true.
That it's almost like, it's like a makeup call, because the narrative that a running back can never win MVP. Yeah, I feel like the tide is starting to shift. It's almost like the anti-narrative is becoming the narrative now. So I actually think that works in his favor, Broussard.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, Henry had the 5th highest amount of yards ever as a running back, over 2,000 yards, and like Nick said, didn't get a vote. He averaged 125 yards a game, and Jonathan Taylor's averaging 108. And again, Taylor's been fantastic. I just don't see them breaking the trend of quarterbacks winning this award for a guy averaging just 108 yards a game. But great year by him, for sure.
All right, we talked about remembering all the way back to February, so let's talk some Super Bowl odds. Are the Kansas City Chiefs finally getting the respect Nick thinks they deserve? First things first. First things first, back here talking the AFC leading Kansas City Chiefs. So Fox Bet Sportsbook has KC as co-favorites with the Packers to win the Super Bowl. Nick, should I say that sentence again, but slower and maybe in a British accent? First time Chiefs have been favored to win it since week 5. Fox Bet Sportsbook has KC as co-favorites with the Packers to win the Super Bowl this year.
Nice.
Chiefs had quite the resurgence since week 5. 7 straight wins and the inside track on home field throughout the playoffs. We got 3-time Pro Bowler LeVar Arrington joining the conversation this morning. LeVar, great to have you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll start with you.
Good morning, guys.
Do you think the Chiefs deserve to be co-favorites with the Packers?
I think you have to say that they deserve to be co-favorites with the Packers for the simple fact that they have figured out how to win in spite of having that explosive offensive attack that they've had in the last few years of Patrick Mahomes being the guy. They have learned how to win without blowing teams out. And I think that makes them more of a dangerous team than what they've been with the type of offenses that they've had in years past. Why? Because now you're leaning on things that you've not leaned on before. You're leaning on your defense to be a little bit more dominant, a little bit more assertive than what they've had to be, and they have been. You're looking at the offense, and the offense has to be, aware of the fact that, maybe we don't need to win the game. We just got to make sure we don't lose it. So now, with all of the firepower that they have on that offense side of the ball, to move forward with the understanding and the mindset that we actually don't have to be an offensive juggernaut to win every single game, I think gives them that edge that they need moving into the playoffs, that maybe in years past, if they don't bring an offensive A game, they're going home, whereas now they're more of a complete team if you're thinking about it in terms of all 3 phases, offense, defense, and special teams, Nick.
That's right. This is why I said a couple weeks ago this is the most dangerous Chiefs team ever, because they can beat you in so many different ways. And so, do the Chiefs deserve to be Super Bowl co-favorites? The answer to that question is no. They deserve to be the standalone prohibitive favorites, because the most surefire thing we know about this NFL season remaining is who's coming out of the AFC. The reason the Chiefs should be significant favorites above Green Bay to win the Super Bowl is because they're such a bigger favorite than Green Bay to get there. If we are ranking the best teams in football, you have the Chiefs, and then you have what? 4 NFC teams before you list the next AFC team? And who is the next AFC team. It's not the Patriots after what we saw this weekend. It's certainly not the Titans. Is it the Colts? Is it the Chargers? Two teams that look really dangerous right now, but also are not even assured to be in the playoffs. So, while the Chiefs' path could not be better, they are right now the inside track for the 1 seed and could damn near lock it up this weekend if the Bills beat the Patriots and the Titans lose to I think they're playing the Niners. And so I'm not sitting here saying the Chiefs are demonstrably better than Green Bay. I don't think they necessarily are. But they are so much demonstrably better than everyone else in the AFC that they deserve to be the standalone favorites because they are so clearly on the inside track to getting back to the Super Bowl. Meanwhile, Green Bay's got a lot of work to do because the NFC is so much stronger at the top.
Okay. I'm a few corrections there, America. And you're asking who's the second best team in the AFC? Certainly not the Patriots. By certainly not the Patriots, the actual answer is obviously and definitely the Patriots when we showed a graphic with the big number 2 and then the Patriots. Look, we have a big game against the Bills, so it's not necessarily a guarantee that we stay there, but we are obviously the second best team in the AFC. And I don't see any evidence that the Chiefs are demonstrably and far away better than all the other teams in the AFC. I just don't. And here's why. And this goes back to something Andy Reid said. Andy Reid said, you got to develop your own personality. Every team is different every year. You can't worry about the expectations, all that stuff. That was when the Chiefs were kind of in the middle of the road. So now the Chiefs have sort of straightened the ship out. But Broussard, here's the interesting thing, and every Chiefs fan knows this because it's just a fact. The Patrick Mahomes of old that used to strike fear in the hearts of every team in the NFL, instead of doing that for the whole game, does it occasionally. We saw it in the fourth quarter and overtime of the game against the Chargers. But here are the facts. It's his worst completion percentage of his career. Not by a lot, just by a little. It's the worst passing yards per game. He's got the most interceptions already. He's got the lowest passer rating, and the team is putting up the lowest points. So it's a good spin, Broussard. It's like, well, because the defense is playing well and Patrick Mahomes is playing pretty good, that makes them dangerous. I guess. I also think that every Kansas City Chiefs fan would rather have Patrick Mahomes from either of the last 2 years. So he's still struggling. He's still a little bit inconsistent. And maybe it's unfair that I'm comparing him from the Patrick Mahomes of old. But if we're going to say that this guy is the rightful heir to Tom Brady's throne, then I think it's say, okay, we can point out that the guy has regressed this year, or Broussard, the league has figured him out.
Okay, look, I rarely say this on this show, but both you guys, Nick and Wilds, you made good points. I've said, like Nick Wilds, that I think this could be the most dangerous team in the Patrick Mahomes era because of their balance and some of the things that LeVar pointed out, knowing how to win ugly and things like this. Obviously, the defense is better. But you are right, Wilds, and I bet Nick would fall into this category too. Every Chiefs fan would probably rather have the Chiefs from the last couple years where it was a light show and Patrick Mahomes was putting up 30 numbers in every game over what they have now. Okay, you said no. Okay.
No.
But you made a good argument, Nick. You made a good argument about the AFC versus the NFC. So I'll give you that. Wilds, I like the Patriots like you, but no. The Chiefs are clearly the class of the AFC. Is it guaranteed they come out? Not necessarily. It's not guaranteed, but they are the definitive favorite in their conference. And you're right, Nick. Green Bay, while the favorite, it's going to be tough for them to get out of the NFC. That said, I think, Nick, Green Bay, if you look at it objectively, they would have to be the favorite right now. Just because they've played the best football over the 15 weeks, take out the first week, obviously, but over the last 14 weeks, of every team in the league. They got a top 10 defense. They got Aaron Rodgers playing as well as he ever has and as well as anybody in the league is playing. They got 2 strong running backs. They've got the best wins they got better wins than the Chiefs. What they got? Pittsburgh, San Francisco, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Arizona, the Rams. I mean, they got some great wins And I would say they should be the co-favorites because one AFC, one NFC, LeVar. But I think the Packers right now are playing the best football in the league.
Yeah, they are. They are playing the best football, and I don't agree with the Packers are going to have the harder time out of the two teams to make it to the Super Bowl. I mean, I think Tampa Bay took a step back losing Chris Godwin for the season. Shots out, much love, respect to baby boy. I don't know with the health concerns. How will Leonard Fournette be the rest of the way? How will Mike Evans be the rest of the way? These are injuries of significance because we're late in the season. So when you look at teams out of the NFC, you got to say Dallas and Arizona are the two most dangerous teams to what Green Bay is trying to do. Maybe LA starts to establish themselves. We'll see what they do tonight.
Rams, yeah.
But yeah. So but maybe not. They've been inconsistent. The Arizona Cardinals, inconsistent. Only consistent in late season meltdown. The Cowboys, they're intriguing, but
correct.
I don't trust it all the way. So I look at Green Bay as having a better opportunity. I really do. And then when you look on the AFC side of it, go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to add, I think the Niners are dangerous. I think the Niners and Colts are the two teams this year, and I know you love the Colts, that absolutely, even if they have to go on the road, can cause damage. I think most people love everything about those teams except for the two quarterbacks, and you feel like if they can overcome those. But just to Wilds' point about the worst year from Mahomes, Wilds, if we took the first four paintings Vincent Van Gogh made and then said, pick out the worst one, and then you compared it to some kid's finger painting, even if it's Van Gogh's worst, it's still going to be a little better than the preschooler with the finger paint. And that's right now Mahomes versus the AFC quarterback field. I'm just curious, if we showed the AFC playoff picture again, aside from Herbert, who's the quarterback? You got Mac Jones, who's got green paint on his nose. Look at me, Daddy. Look, you got Ryan Tannehill, who just gave a game away to the Steelers. You got Lamar, who's hurt. You got Josh Allen, who's trying to play his way out of things. You got Carson Wentz, who they let through that 5 completions. So yeah, it is his worst year. And it's still so much better than anybody else has out there that it's not really a question.
Celebrate Christmas with a boom. Fox Sports proudly presents a documentary tribute to one of football's most beloved figures, the coach, the broadcaster, the video game. All Madden premieres Christmas Day, 2 Eastern, only on Fox. We are back talking the AFC leading Kansas City Chiefs. KC now co-favorites with the Packers to win the Super Bowl. First time, by the way, Chiefs have been favorites to win it since week 5. And they've had quite the resurgence, Nick. 7 straight wins and the inside track on home field throughout the playoffs. But Broussard, I'm going to start with you. Do you think the Chiefs deserve to be co-favorites with the Green Bay Packers?
Well, look, if we want to pick a team out of the AFC and a team out of the NFC, I think they got it right. The Chiefs are clearly the class of the AFC. Now, I'll put this little caveat in there. It's certainly not a guarantee they're going to run away with it in the playoffs. I think they'll win the AFC. They should be the favorite. I believe they're the best team. But, Indianapolis, there are a few dangerous, New England even, just because of Belichick and the defense. There's some dangerous teams out there. But I do think the Chiefs are clearly the best in the AFC. What I would argue, though, Jenna, is that if we're going to pick one favorite, it should be Green Bay. And I'm a guy that, like Nick, has picked the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. But unlike Nick, my takes are objective. They're not biased. And right now, I have got to say, if you look at it objectively, the Green Bay Packers have been the best team in the league thus far. They've been the steadiest. They've beaten great teams. They've beaten the Rams, Arizona, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, San Francisco. They got some great wins. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is playing terrifically. 2 really strong running backs. Defense is top 10. Special teams is a mess, but that's it. But Green Bay, I think, Nick, I'm fine with these two as co-favorites right now, but Green Bay, I think, is playing the best football in the NFL.
Green Bay, well, I don't know how you could be playing better football than the team that's won 7 in a row, especially when one of those wins came against you, the Green Bay Packers, but that's fine. Don't worry. Let's not worry about that. I know that game doesn't count. Just like Green Bay's win this weekend doesn't count.
Someone was missing.
Oh, yeah, Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson was missing, and then Green Bay won by 1, but they're just hey, that win counts, the Chiefs win doesn't. I understand. But the problem is this, because unlike Broussard, this is very simple for me, because I don't have to do any but I didn't, this isn't, am I going to call Green Bay the best when I pick the Bucs to go to the Super Bowl? This is my Super Bowl prediction from all the way back in September. Chiefs-Packers, and look here where we are, a few days from Christmas, and Vegas says, yeah, Chiefs-Packers is probably where it's going to be. Here's the thing. Packers might be, if the Super Bowl were played today, maybe the Packers would be, if it were these two teams, the favorite. I don't know. But the Packers are far less likely to get there than the Chiefs. We showed you the AFC playoff picture. We can show it to you again. There's one team on that list that strikes any fear in my heart. The Chargers. Because the Chargers have played the Chiefs twice this year. Both games came down to the final seconds. Both games came down to the final minute. Herbert's awesome. The Chargers obviously can score. And with Derwin James healthy, they can defend when he is healthy. There is not another team on that list that causes me a second of pause. Not a second. Now can we show the NFC? The Packers, now I understand the Cardinals are Cliff Kingsburying as we speak. The typical vintage, the leaves are changing and a Cliff Kingsbury coach team is melting down. But while that is happening, the Niners are surging. The Rams, are they getting it together? Yep. The Cowboys still are dangerous-ish. And while the Bucs injuries scare me because of what they did in the postseason last year, you have to pay them their respect. So for those reasons, Wilds, the Packers' path is just so much harder. Meanwhile, the Chiefs' path is just gold-plated runways. And so for that reason, the Chiefs deserve to be the clear Super Bowl favorites.
Can I tell you, look, we all have our favorites on this show. I like the Patriots. Nick likes the Chiefs. But we shouldn't, in a certain amount of exaggeration is okay. Like, I love my son. And if he's the tallest person in his class, I can say, hey, he's the tallest person in his class. I can't say he's 6 feet tall and everybody else is 4 feet tall. The Chiefs right now are barely holding on to the number 1 seed. If they lose against the Steelers and the Patriots win, the Patriots are the number 1 seed. So if you're so fearless about the AFC, then why are you 5-4? The Patriots are 7-2. I would have that claim. Oh, we're 7-2. You're 5-4. So no team strikes fear in the hearts of the Chiefs. They probably should. Defense
who
has been playing better.
Can you put a team on? What team should they be afraid of?
Teams that should scare the Chiefs.
I said that
the Ravens should scare the Chiefs. Yeah. The Patriots should scare the Chiefs. The Bills should scare the Chiefs. The Bengals should scare the Chiefs. There's plenty of teams that should scare the Chiefs. And here's why. You guys are not blowing teams out. You're not. The margin for the margin for error used to be pretty big for the Chiefs. Don't worry. Patrick Mahomes will just open it up. We can always score more. It's not anymore. That game went into overtime. They played well. But it's not like if Justin Herbert won the coin flip, you would have automatically won that game. And here's the thing. Nobody wants to say in Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes is a great player. Don't get me wrong. Patrick Mahomes is a fantastic quarterback. Patrick Mahomes is the heir apparent to Tom Brady to take over the face of the league. But this is also true. He's got the worst completion percentage of his career, fewest passing yards, the most interceptions already, still have some games to play, the lowest passer rating, and the team scored the lowest points. And I think that's skewed from those big Raiders numbers that you were throwing up. So look, to say that you have no fear in any of the other teams, I think is more fan than analyst. How about that for a take? Was that crosses the line? Broussard, more fan than analyst to say that Nick had no fear of any other team in the AFC.
No, I said I fear the Chargers.
And again, Nick, I like the Chiefs in the AFC like you, but I'm not going overboard. I mean, you mentioned the Chargers. Yeah,
Guys,
they would scare you.
wait, I'm going to defend myself here.
Indianapolis with that offensive line,
I'm
that
not
run
scared of
game
Carson
doesn't
Wentz.
scare you?
Miss me with that. I'm going to defend myself here. Wait a second. At some point, being right has to matter. While Wilds had a miss in the playoffs and all this stuff, I said they were going to be fine.
You had them at 20-0.
When I say
my prediction's wrong and yours is right.
I did have them 20-0. I did not have them 20-0. Check the tape. I said it was. I said we have to open our eyes to the possibility if they beat the Ravens because we thought the Ravens were second best team. I said Mahomes was a different guy after the Packers pass. You guys all laughed at me. They haven't lost since. Going into the Charger game, I said the Chargers scare me. I think the Chiefs will win by 6. They won by 6. I said a month ago that the Chiefs were still alive for the 1 seed when Wilds was planning trips to Foxborough for playoff games that will never be played there. So at some point, it's not being a fan. It's just called being right, Jenna. It's just being
Nick,
accurate.
it was the Bud list. It wasn't that third quarter pass.
Gotta go. Undisputed right now.
Bud list did help.